Kay. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hello. My name is Kay. I'm a professional home organizer and soprano here in the Boston area, and I'm here to inspire you to live a more organized life. So I'm on my floor today, very cash, nothing too produced. I wanted to have a quick conversation about how I came to sort of be an organized person and sort of my big why. Because I think that the misconception is that people that help other people create an organized and beautiful space that they can love is that these people have always been organized, and that B, they've never struggled to keep an organized home. So I just wanted to come on and tell you guys a quick story about me and give you my big why about why home organization and having a beautiful surroundings and comfortable surroundings is important to me. And maybe this will inspire you, or maybe make you feel better about your own sort of journey to an organized home. But let's get started. So if you're new to my channel, I have been helping people organize their homes since 2013. I was an employee at a Container Store from like 2008 to 2015. So I started my business a couple of years before I left being an employee at Container Store. After that, I was actually a contract organizer for the Container Store with their Contain Home program. That my contract ended with that, and then I was just basically on my own helping clients. And my sort of journey to organization started much before that. I'm an only child, and I don't have any brothers and sisters, and my sanctuary was my room and my surroundings. I spent a lot of time by myself playing and recording my voice into my Brown Fisher-Price tape recorder. I did that a lot. And a lot of people think that only children have this sort of sad, lonely existence. It was not that. I can tell you, and a lot of other people who also are only children can tell you, that I'm very comfortable with my own company. I really, really need solitude, actually, especially now. And I'm also very introverted, so being out with people, even though I'm not shy per se, I am introverted. So being out with people, having sort of a very excited social experience really drains my energy, and I need to come back and have some alone time. So the time I spent in my space was very important to me from a young person all the way up into adulthood. When I was able to move to Boston, I moved to Boston from Maryland. My parents are from Maryland, and I went to school in Boston, and I'm still here, much to their chagrin, but I'm still here. And I moved into, I remember, my very first apartment, and kept it relatively neat, but not super organized, but it was relatively neat. And then I moved into another apartment on the other side of town in grad school, because I went to school in Cambridge. And I got this beautiful one-bedroom apartment, and I loved it. I loved it so much. It had this big yellow kitchen, and it had this it was just a great place. And I kind of struggled to keep it organized and beautiful. I remember going out and buying a couple of pieces of furniture from Pier 1 when it was still... Is Pier 1 still a thing? I don't know if it's still open or not, but I remember there was a Pier 1 close to where I lived, and I would go in there a lot and look at furniture, and at one point my father had helped me purchase a love seat from Pier 1. I had it delivered. I was so excited, and I just really wanted to create this beautiful space because that really meant a lot to me. But and I remember I had this beautiful standalone pantry. It was like a closet in the kitchen that was a pantry. I struggled to keep that stuff organized almost the entire time I was there. I would buy food, stuff in the pantry, and every few months or so I would take everything out of the pantry, organize it, and it would go in and look really nice. And then I wouldn't be able to keep it up. And I found this incredibly frustrating. I also had this little cabinet thing, I remember, in the kitchen that was just one counter. I had one thing of counter space. That was it. And even though the kitchen was big, I had like no counter space. It was very weird. And underneath it, I remember just there being a mess of items, like just stuff I didn't know what to do with. I just stuck there, and then I had this closet in the entryway, sort of, that was a coat closet, and I stuck so much stuff down at the bottom, just stuck crap in there. And then again, every now and again, I would get the sort of fire in me, and I would go and try to take control of these spaces, and I was never able to keep it up. Like, never. It would stay organized for maybe a week, maybe a few weeks, and then slowly it would just go back to being disorganized and to stuff everywhere. And it was really unsettling, but I lived with it just because that was the way that what I knew. And even though it was causing me some distress, I didn't think that I could do anything about it. And then one day, I remember on September 10th, 2001, this was my first year of graduate school. At 5 o'clock that day, on Monday, 9/10/2001, we'd had this yoga class for singers or something, a movement for singers. I think it was like yoga for singers. And I remember doing that yoga class for singers in this beautiful old building where we went to school. It had these amazing like windows so you could see out onto the street in Cambridge and people laughing. And it was the most gorgeous fall afternoon where it was still a little bit hot from summer, but it was starting to have that fall feeling. And it was about 7 o'clock when we were finally walking home, and I remember just seeing the most beautiful sunset and thinking, this is so good. And then the next morning, I woke up and got ready for school. I had a research and materials class. I cannot talk. Research and materials class. And at this point, I was still watching and actively taping The Young and the Restless. I remember this on my VCR every day. I would watch it every day. But I was in school, so I would taped it and watched it, when I was home for dinner. And I turned on the television to make sure that the VCR was going to tape, to set it up and everything. And when I turned on the television, I saw Fox, the Twin Towers on fire, and a plane flying into it. So I went to school. I walked to school, and I had my Walkman. You guys remember Walkman? So I listened to the radio, actually, and it ran out of batteries. So I went to Walgreens to grab a new set of batteries so I could continue listening on the other half of my walk to school. And I told the woman behind the counter who rung me up that 2 planes had crashed into the World Trade Center, and she did not believe me, but rang me up anyway. And I proceeded to listen to the radio still, and we were in class listening to the radio and couldn't believe what was happening. I had my very first cell phone, I remember, and I was trying to call my mom because sometimes she was still working at that time. She's in the Army, and sometimes she worked at the Pentagon. So I tried to call her and couldn't get through. No one could get through to anyone. And I of course, was very, very afraid. So they, of course, let us out of school at, I think like 11 o'clock or something, 12, and canceled courses and classes and lessons for the rest of the day. And I came home to my apartment, and it felt, not only did I feel unsafe, but the fact that my apartment was so disorganized and I didn't feel comfortable there. I didn't feel like it was taking care of me. I didn't feel like it was comforting. And it really drove home that day, hi Clover, that I didn't feel like my surroundings were taking care of me. And I also didn't feel like I was taking care of my surroundings. It was the first time in my life when I didn't feel safe in a way in my space. I didn't feel like when I came home, my space hugged me. I felt afraid. I felt afraid for a few days, and of course I felt sad and shocked, and we were all sort of shocked. And from that point on, I decided that if I And I've always been sort of a really anxious person, just by default. I just was born that way, or was drawn that way. And I just decided that, and I feel like a lot of anxiety is about control, what you can control, what you can't control. And I decided that if I was going to, control something in my life and feel safe in a space that I could control, I was going to do that. And, if I could feel anxious, in the outside, but if I had a nice, organized, beautiful space to come to at the end of the day, that it would make my life so much better. And from then on, I began to change my mindset about my relationship with items, my relationship with my space, my relationship with my processes, whether they're helpful to my environment or not so helpful to my environment and to my life. And I went on sort of an organizing journey. It wasn't like a light switch that switched on. It was very much a journey. And from that point on, it took me a number of years to really get to a place where I could say, I've loved every space I've lived in since I've gotten to the mindset where I have the ability to set up the space in a way that works for me and for my family, my husband and I. And it's made hard days a lot better. When I come home from a hard day, or if something has been very stressful, I come home, and if everything is beautiful and is sort of taking care of me, hugging me, that little bit of comfort is worth so much more to me than I can describe. And that really is my big why. It's not about, it is about saving time, yes, because the average American or the average person spends 55 minutes a day looking for items. That is a lot of time. 55 minutes. It's so much time, like 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 15 minutes here, But creating a nest that feels comforting, that hugs you, that takes care of you when there's chaos outside or chaos in your life is more meaningful to me than I can describe. There's a lot of other ways to cope, and there's a lot of other ways to comfort yourself, but one of my favorite ways and one of the easiest ways I've comforted myself is creating beautiful, mindful, thoughtful surroundings. So that is my why. And also, I just want to give you some comfort if you're thinking, why can't I do this in, a day or a week, turn my life around, turn my place around? It's because it's a journey. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. You didn't get disorganized overnight. You didn't, acquire all that stuff overnight. It takes time to develop a proper mindset so that you can create the home you want for yourself. And it's really about mindset. It's not about the stuff. It's about the stuff between you and the stuff. Okay. I hope this wasn't too rambly or too long. I know I tend to ramble a lot, and that's, one of my weaknesses. I apologize. I'm sorry. But I will see you all in the next one. Take care of yourselves and the ones around you.